Alright guys, this is NinjaGaijin, and on today's episode I want to talk about money. So one of the biggest questions that a lot of people have before coming to Japan is, how much money do I need to bring? And that's really a great question. So one, I'm going to just break down how some things cost in Japan, just to give you some, just average some numbers, and then you can go from there. So for one thing, going to restaurants in Japan is significantly cheaper than in America, especially, and probably a few other countries as well. In Japan, you don't tip, right? Tipping is seen as something that is extremely unnecessary and not really wanted, to be honest with you. The mentality about that is, you see, in America, of course, you tip because you want to show appreciation, you want to show above and beyond service received, you want to, show some type of token of appreciation, really. But in Japan, it's actually seen that everything, your meal, is included in the price, and that price includes the service, the quality, etc. So by you paying extra, it's actually seen as a negative, like they're not charging enough, or how can I say this? Yeah, that's pretty much the only way I can say it. They just don't find it appreciative. Now, some taxi drivers, some places, they'll just take it because they don't want to deal with explaining why they don't take it. But it's just something to remember when you come to Japan. Nowhere you need to tip. It's just unnecessary, unneeded, and quite frankly, unwanted. So that's one thing. So normally when I go out to eat, which I go out to eat a lot, especially when I first came to Japan, because I couldn't cook, so every day, lunch, dinner, bam, I ate out. Most of my meals end up being less than $10. So saying, 1,000 yen, so about $10. One of my favorite meals was a rice ball. Not rice ball, I'm sorry. It's a fried rice kind of mound. And it included just a lot of fried rice, pork mixed up, some vegetables. It's from a restaurant called Osho, O-S-H-O. And it's really, really good. And it only cost about, I want to say, 550 yen, so really cheap, and I always got pretty full on that. Then sometimes I go out to eat ramen. Ramen's average price tends to be about $8 to $9, which isn't too bad. And sometimes even when I go to like a family restaurant, complete sit down, it's almost always under $10. So that's just one thing to remember. So if you just think, okay, well, I'm going to be in Japan for even 1 week, I'm going to eat out, you can average it out and say, okay, lunch, dinner, 1,000 yen a piece, $20, plus a quick breakfast, maybe match like $5 for a breakfast, average out to be $25 to $30 a day. You'll be good to go on food, no problem. Now, obviously there are convenience stores. However, if you're visiting here, or even if you're staying here long term, convenience stores are exactly that, convenient. However, the prices are quite substantially more expensive than your average supermarket. So let's say you're driving around or you're walking around and you see a supermarket, I highly recommend going into that versus a convenience store just to save a few extra bucks. Now, on the other side, convenience stores, they do have limited edition or special foods or special snacks sometimes. Like an example here is they're really big on Haagen-Dazs, but the Haagen-Dazs cups are like super tiny, like this big, right? Like maybe this big. and there are a lot of different flavors and some really weird flavors per season, and some of them are only sold at convenience store, or they're first sold at a convenience store and then you know, months down the road they're moved to a supermarket, right? So it doesn't hurt to check and then go to the supermarket to see if they have it, but you know, that is kind of annoying, so I understand. Convenience stores themselves are really good. Actually, I'll make that for a separate video, what I recommend per convenience store. But let's focus on costs. Public transport or public transportation is, well, it's okay. It's decently priced. Depends on how far you want to go. Just remember, when you're in Japan using the trains, there's obviously different types of trains, so they're not all the same cost. One place I highly recommend looking at is Hypridia. Anytime I want to go anywhere in Japan via train, I use Hypridia. I'll have a link. I'll put a link down in the description. You can use it in English, and the output's in English, so it's really easy to use. So I highly recommend that. It'll tell you how much it'll cost, the times, and everything. So you know exactly, you know, what time you're supposed to be there, how long it'll take to get to your destination, how much it'll be, right? So that's really helpful. Trains, it depends on like I said, the type of train you use. If you want to use a bullet train, right, the Shinkansen, they're the fastest trains, but the most expensive. Not all places have that train, so but if you're going to the big cities, for example, Tokyo to Osaka, or Osaka to Hiroshima, you know, they have the Shinkansens. Normally they range anywhere between $100 to $150 one way, so they're not very cheap. But if you're coming to Japan, short term, long term, I highly recommend at least doing it once. Just trying it. It's really cool, especially if you sit down, you look out the window, just everything is a blur because it just goes so fast. But it's just, and it's super smooth, so it's a win-win situation. Fast, smooth, not bumpy at all. So for you individuals who happen to get maybe motion sickness, don't gotta worry about that. So definitely try the Shinkansens. If you want to travel Japan on the cheap, overnight bus is the way to do it. You can take an overnight bus from Osaka to Tokyo for like $50, $60, depending on how early you get it. So that's definitely a way. The cheapest option, which I personally have not used myself, but I have heard a lot of stories from other people, is hitchhiking, right? I've heard about people who hitchhike all across Japan for free. Just get a sign to go outside, stand near the highway, and basically go for as long as the individuals are willing to take them. So if you're feeling really adventurous, you could do that route, but once again, at your own risk. Something I always thought about trying, never had a chance to do it. But you know, if you do happen to have a chance or an encounter to do a hitchhiking, or you have done hitchhiking before in Japan, please comment below and let me know about your experience. You know, I'd be curious to hear about it. As far as let's see, costs. Most vending machines, sometimes a lot of vending machines, they advertise that they're only $1, right? Everything's $1, but usually the quality of the drinks is kind of on the lower end. They don't have that much variety, but still it's $1, which is good. Well, one time when I went to Costco, which I'll talk about Costco eventually in another video, but they have a vending machine that had just rows of bottled water for 30 yen piece, you know, 30 cents a piece, which is really cheap. So that was pretty interesting, but it was just water, right? And costs. If you want to travel within Japan on an airplane, which sometimes, believe it or not, airplane is cheaper than the bullet train, the Shinkansen. One famous cheap airline is Peach. You can check their website. Obviously you have your standard ANA and you know, JAL, but Peach is very, very cheap, so definitely check for them first. They usually have the best sales, the best offers. Let's see, gas stations. So I had a video I did about gas stations. Unfortunately, gas is not very cheap in Japan, especially relative to America. Right now, I'm looking at the sign and it's telling me 1 liter is 118 yen, right? So it's like a buck, imagine like a $1.20, about a $1.20 for 1 liter. So there's 4 liters in a gallon, so we're looking at $4.80. Yeah, $4.80 per gallon, which is fairly expensive. It used to be even more. When I first got to Japan, I remember seeing around like $1.50, $1.60 per liter, but you know, it's still relatively expensive because, you know, Japan, they import all their oil to begin with. So you could rent a car in Japan. For example, for the first 3 years I rented my car. Each month it cost me 240 bucks. Utilities, you got your, let's see, my water bill tends to be about $50 to $100 depending on how much I use it per month. Electric is the same, about 100 bucks. Gas, same, 100 bucks. So, and my apartment itself is something like 500 bucks a month or something. So I mean, those obviously, those prices are only pertain to people who are going to come here and live here. But if you're just coming here as a tourist, like I said, just remember, if you average out about $10 per meal per number of days, plus add in you know, depending on how much you want to travel within Japan, right? Because you're gonna need some money for train fare, plus like random snack money. Like if I was to travel to Japan and I was only coming in here as a tourist, I would average probably, like I said, maybe about $30 a day. If you want to do more activity-based things, you can do $40, $50 a day averaging. You know, if you can bring $50 per day, times the number of days you're gonna be here, you're gonna have a nice time in Japan for sure. But you know, not everyone has that kind of money, so I understand. This video was a little bit longer than I was hoping it was gonna be, but no problem. If you happen to have any more questions pertaining about how much things cost in Japan, specifically how much does this cost in Japan, or you know, whatever, then please please comment down below, and you know, I'll answer the question as soon as I can. Alright guys, have a good one. Bye.